The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with hundreds of alien delegates. They came from every corner of the known galaxy. Some had scales that shone like metal. Others had wings made of light. A few were just clouds of gas floating in special containers. They all sat in their chairs, looking down at the small human standing alone in the center of the room. Ambassador Tejo stood straight and calm. He was not a tall man, but he carried himself with quiet dignity. His dark hair was turning gray at the sides, and his eyes showed the tiredness of many sleepless nights. Behind him, a small group of human officials sat in silence. They were the only humans in a room of thousands. High Counselor Vorith raised one of his forearms, and the hall went silent. Vorith was a Kelari, a species known for their blue skin and their belief that they were the most important beings in the galaxy. His golden robe swept the floor as he moved forward. "We have gathered here today to discuss a serious matter," Vorith said. His voice echoed through the hall. "The humans have been keeping secrets from us. They have hidden resources. They have refused to share their technology. They think they are better than the rest of us." A wave of angry sounds passed through the crowd. Tejo did not move. He had heard these lies before. "The humans came to our galaxy as refugees," Vorith continued. "We welcomed them. We gave them planets to live on. We taught them our ways. And how do they repay us? With greed. With selfishness." Tejo raised his hand to speak. Vorith looked at him with cold eyes but nodded. "High Counselor," Tejo said in a steady voice, "what you say is not true. Humanity has shared everything we have. Our doctors work in hospitals on 100 worlds. Our engineers build stations and ships for species who cannot build their own. Our teachers—" "Lies!" shouted a delegate from the back. It was Ambassador Drex of the Valtori, a species of tall, thin beings with eyes like black pools. "The humans keep their best medicine for themselves. My people have asked for help, and they give us nothing." "That is not true," Tejo said calmly. "We sent 3 medical ships to your homeworld last year. Your government turned them away." Drex stood up, his long body shaking with anger. "You dare call me a liar? I am stating facts," Tejo replied. The hall erupted in shouting. Aliens yelled at each other and at the humans. Some defended humanity, but their voices were drowned out by the angry ones. Tejo watched it all with sad eyes. He had seen this coming for a long time. For years, humanity had worked hard to be good members of the galactic community. They asked for nothing in return. When planets needed food, human cargo ships arrived with supplies. When wars broke out, human peacekeepers stepped in to stop the fighting. When plagues spread, human doctors rushed to help. But somewhere along the way, the other species had forgotten all of this. They only saw what humans had, not what humans gave. They became jealous of human ships and human cities. They whispered that humans were planning to take over the galaxy. None of it was true. But lies spread faster than truth. Vorith raised his arms again, and the hall slowly went quiet. His eyes found Tejo, and there was no kindness in them. "The council will now vote," Vorith announced. "The question is simple. Should humanity face punishment for their crimes against the galactic community?" Tejo stepped forward. "What crimes? You have shown no evidence. You have only made accusations." "The evidence is clear to anyone who wants to see it," Vorith said coldly. "Humanity has grown too powerful. They must be controlled." "So this is not about justice," Tejo said quietly. "This is about fear." Vorith did not answer. He turned to the crowd. "All those in favor of sanctions against humanity, raise your limbs." Across the hall, arms and tentacles and wings rose into the air. Tejo counted them with a heavy heart. There were so many. Species that humans had helped for decades were now voting against them. All those opposed? A few hands went up. Not many. The Pelori, whose planet humans had saved from a dying sun. The Marquesh, whose children humans had taught for generations. A handful of others. They looked ashamed, as if they knew they were doing something wrong but were too afraid to join the majority. Vorith smiled. It was not a nice smile. "The vote is clear. Humanity will face the following punishments. First, all human trade ships are banned from Council space. Second, all human workers must leave their posts on alien worlds within 30 days. Third, humanity must pay a tribute of resources to the Council every year. The humans behind Tejo gasped. One of them, a young woman named Hana, stood up with tears in her eyes. "You cannot do this," she said. "We have done nothing wrong. Our people have given everything to help this galaxy." "Then you should have given more," Vorith replied coldly. Tejo put his hand on Hana's shoulder and gently made her sit down. He looked at Vorith one last time. "High Counselor," Tejo said, "I have served as humanity's ambassador for 20 years. In that time, I have seen my people sacrifice their lives to save alien children. I have seen human farmers share their last food with hungry strangers. I have seen human soldiers die protecting worlds they would never call home." He paused. The hall was silent. "You ask what crimes humanity has committed. I will tell you. Our crime is that we cared too much. Our crime is that we gave without counting the cost. And now you punish us for it." Vorith waved his hand dismissively. "Pretty words, but words do not change the vote." Tejo nodded slowly. "No, they do not. But I want you to remember this moment, High Counselor. Remember it well. Because one day, you will understand what you have done here today, and by then, it will be too late." He turned and walked out of the hall. Hana and the other humans followed him. The alien delegates watched them go. Some with satisfaction. Others with guilt they tried to hide. Outside the Great Hall, the human delegation gathered around Tejo. Hana was still crying quietly. "What do we do now?" asked an older man named Sung Ho. He was the head of human military forces in the region. "Do we fight?" Tejo shook his head. "No. We do not fight." "Then what?" Tejo looked up at the stars through the station's glass ceiling. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was home. "We leave," he said simply. "We pack our things, we say our goodbyes, and we leave. But the sanctions only require us to leave in 30 days, Sung Ho said. "We could negotiate. We could—" They do not want us here," Tejo interrupted gently. "They have made that very clear. So we will go. And we will not come back until they ask us to." Hana wiped her eyes. "What if they never ask?" Tejo put his hand on her shoulder. "Then they will learn to live without us. And perhaps, in time, they will understand what they have lost." He began walking toward the human ships. The others followed him, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. Behind them, the great hall buzzed with celebration. The aliens thought they had won a great victory. They had no idea what was coming. The news of the Council's decision spread across the galaxy like fire. On every planet, in every station, beings of all species talked about what had happened. Most of them celebrated. The humans had been put in their place. Finally, the galaxy would be free from their influence. But on the planets where humans lived and worked, something strange began to happen. Something quiet. Something that no one noticed at first. Dr. Yuna was one of the first to leave. She had worked at the Central Hospital on Kellery Prime for 15 years. She had delivered thousands of alien babies. She had cured diseases that Kellari doctors could not understand. She had held the hands of dying patients and given them comfort in their final hours. Now she stood in her small office, packing her things into a single bag. There was not much to pack. A few photos of her family back on Earth. A small plant that a Kellari child had given her years ago. A medal she had received for saving lives during the Great Plague. Her assistant, a young Kellari named Veth, stood in the doorway watching her. "Doctor, you do not have to leave for another 25 days, Veth said. His voice was confused. "The council said 30 days. Yuna smiled at him gently. "I know what the council said. Then why are you leaving now?" She looked at him for a long moment. Veth had been her assistant for 3 years. She had taught him everything she knew. She had watched him grow from a nervous student into a skilled healer. Because I understand now, she said softly. We are not wanted here. That is not true, Veth said quickly. The patients love you. The other doctors respect you. He stopped, struggling to find words. Yuna walked over to him and put her hand on his arm. You are a good student, Veth. You will be a great doctor one day. Everything I taught you, you will remember. And that is enough. But the hospital needs you. There are patients who only trust you. There are treatments that only you know how to do. Then you must learn them quickly, Yuna said. She picked up her bag and walked toward the door. Take care of them, Veth. Take care of all of them. She left before he could say anything else. Veth stood alone in the empty office, not understanding what had just happened. Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out in 1,000 different places. On the mining world of Torith, human engineers began shutting down their machines. They had spent decades digging tunnels and building equipment that the local species could not build themselves. Now they handed over their keys and their manuals and walked away. But we need you, shouted the mine supervisor. A Torithy with rock-like skin. Who will fix the deep drills? Who will maintain the air systems? The lead engineer, a quiet man named Dong Su, just shook his head. You will figure it out. You are clever beings. The council did not say you had to stop working. They only said you had to pay tribute. We do not stay where we are not wanted, Dong Su said simply. Good luck. On the agricultural moon of Pelax, human farmers packed their seeds and their tools. They had spent generations turning the dead soil into green fields. They had taught the locals how to grow food in harsh conditions. They had shared their knowledge freely, asking for nothing in return. Now they left. The young Pelaxian farmers begged them to stay, but the humans just smiled sadly and walked to their ships. Why? Asked one young farmer, a female named Rissa. Why are you leaving? We did not vote against you. We spoke in your defense. The old human farmer, a woman named Sunja, took Rissa's hands in hers. I know, child. And we are grateful. But the council has spoken, and we must listen. The council does not speak for us, perhaps, but they speak for the galaxy. And the galaxy does not want us anymore. Sunja climbed into her ship. Through the window, she saw Rissa standing in the field, tears running down her face. Sunja waved goodbye, and the ship lifted off into the sky. In the schools, human teachers said farewell to their students. In the hospitals, human doctors finished their last treatments. In the military bases, human peacekeepers handed over their weapons to confused alien officers. One by one, day by day, the humans left. They did not argue. They did not fight. They did not beg to stay. They simply packed their bags, said their goodbyes, and disappeared into the stars. The council watched this with growing unease. They had expected the humans to protest. They had expected negotiations, arguments, maybe even threats. They had not expected silence. High Counselor Vorith called an emergency meeting. What are the humans doing? He demanded. Our sources say they are leaving everywhere. Not just council space. Everywhere. They are following the sanctions, said one of his advisors. No. The sanctions only required them to stop trading and remove their workers from government posts. They are removing everyone, every human, from every planet, even the ones who have lived among us for generations. Perhaps they are making a statement, suggested another advisor. A Valtori named Drex. Vorith slammed his fist on the table. What statement? What are they planning? No one had an answer. Days passed. Then weeks. The human ships kept leaving. Great cargo vessels that once carried food and medicine, now carried only people. Military ships that once protected alien worlds now escorted civilian transports toward human space. And then came the final message. Ambassador Tejo appeared on every screen in the galaxy. His face was calm, but his eyes were full of something that made the viewers uncomfortable. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something worse. It was disappointment. People of the galaxy, Tejo began. I am speaking to you for the last time as the human ambassador. By the time you see this message, all humans will have left Council space. We are going home." He paused, letting the words sink in. "For 200 years, humanity has been part of your community. We came to you as refugees, as you like to remind us. We had lost our first home to war. You gave us a second chance. And we have spent every day since then trying to repay your kindness. Our doctors healed your sick. Our engineers built your cities. Our teachers educated your children. Our soldiers died protecting your worlds. We asked for nothing in return, except friendship and respect. The Council has shown us that we will receive neither." Vorith watched the broadcast from his private chambers. His blue hands were shaking, though he did not understand why. "We do not hate you," Teho continued. "We are not angry with you. We are simply tired. Tired of giving and giving while you take and take. Tired of being blamed for problems we did not cause. Tired of watching our sacrifices be forgotten and our kindness be punished. So we are leaving. Not because you forced us to, but because we choose to. We will not stay where we are not wanted. We will not force our help on those who reject it. Perhaps you will be happier without us. Perhaps you will find that the galaxy is better off when humans are gone. If so, then we wish you well. But perhaps you will discover something else. Perhaps you will learn what we truly meant to this galaxy. And when that day comes, we hope you will remember this moment. We hope you will remember that we did not leave in anger. We left in sorrow." Teho looked directly at the camera. His eyes seemed to stare right through the screen, right into the souls of everyone watching. "Goodbye," he said softly. "We hope, one day, you will understand." The screen went dark. Across the galaxy, billions of beings sat in silence. Some felt triumph. Some felt relief. But many, more than expected, felt something cold forming in their stomachs. Fear. And in the darkness of space, the last human ships crossed into human territory. The borders closed behind them. Communications went silent. The humans were gone, and the galaxy was about to learn just how much it had lost. The first problems started small, so small that most people did not even notice them. On Kellery Prime, the machines in the central hospital began to break down. The Kellery doctors tried to fix them, but the machines were built by human engineers who had taken their knowledge with them. Within a week, 3 of the most important medical scanners stopped working completely. "Find the repair manuals," ordered the hospital director. "We cannot, sir. The humans took them when they left." "Then call another hospital. Surely someone knows how to fix these machines." They called. No one knew. The machines had been designed by humans, built by humans, and maintained by humans for decades. The Kelari had never bothered to learn how they worked. Why would they? The humans were always there to fix things. Now the humans were gone. Veth, Dr. Yuna's former assistant, worked day and night trying to remember everything she had taught him. But there was too much. Too many treatments, too many procedures, too many little details that he had never written down because he always assumed she would be there to help. A child came to the hospital with a rare blood disease. Yuna had treated dozens of cases like this. She knew exactly which medicine to use and exactly how much to give. Veth did not. The child died 3 days later. Veth sat alone in his office, staring at the wall. On his desk was the small plant that Yuna had left behind. He had not watered it, and it was starting to die too. On the mining world of Torith, the deep drills stopped working within a month. The tunnels began to flood because no one knew how to operate the pumping systems. The air recyclers failed because no one understood the complex filters the humans had installed. 50 miners were trapped underground when a tunnel collapsed. Before, human rescue teams would have arrived within hours. They had the equipment and the training to save lives in the darkness. Now there was no one. The Torithi dug frantically with their bare hands, but by the time they reached the trapped miners, it was too late. The mine supervisor remembered the last words the human engineer had said. You will figure it out. You are clever beings. They had not figured it out. They had not even come close. On the agricultural moon of Pelax, the crops began to fail. The human farmers had developed special seeds that could grow in the harsh soil. They had designed irrigation systems that used every drop of water efficiently. They had taught the locals how to protect the plants from disease, but they had not taught them everything. They had not had time. The young farmer Rissa watched in horror as her fields turned brown and dry. She did everything she could remember, everything that Sunja had taught her. But it was not enough. The seeds needed special care that Rissa did not know how to give. The irrigation systems broke down, and she did not know how to repair them. By the end of the growing season, Pelax had produced only a fraction of its usual harvest. Food became scarce. Prices went up. People began to go hungry, and then the wars started. For decades, human peacekeepers had stood between the Valtori and the Markesh. The two species had hated each other for 1,000 years. Old wars, old grievances, old hatreds that never died. But the humans had kept the peace. They had negotiated treaties, patrolled borders, and stopped fights before they could become massacres. Now the peacekeepers were gone. It began with a small incident. A Valtori trading ship wandered into Markesh space by accident. In the old days, a human patrol would have escorted the ship away and filed a report. No harm done. But there were no human patrols anymore. A Markesh warship intercepted the trading vessel and opened fire. All aboard were killed. The Valtori demanded justice. The Markesh refused. Within a week, the two species were at war. The fighting spread quickly. Other old enemies saw their chance. The Torathi attacked a Kelari outpost over a dispute that had been settled years ago by human diplomats. The settlement was no longer valid, they claimed, because the humans who made it were gone. 3 more wars started in the following month. Then 5 more. Then 10. The Galactic Council met in emergency session after emergency session, but they could do nothing. They had no peacekeepers. They had no diplomats skilled enough to stop the fighting. They had no one. High Counselor Vorith stood before the council, his blue face pale with stress. "We must restore order," he said. "We must send our own forces to stop these wars." "What forces?" demanded a delegate. "The Kelleri military has not fought a real war in a century. We relied on the humans to do our fighting for us. Then we will learn to fight again." They tried. Kelleri ships were sent to stop the Valtori-Markesh war. They were destroyed within hours. The Kelleri had forgotten how to wage war. The humans had always been there to protect them, and the plagues came. It started on a small moon called Varath. A disease appeared that the local doctors had never seen before. They tried to treat it with their own medicine, but nothing worked. The disease spread from city to city, from continent to continent. "Call for human medical ships," someone suggested. "There are no human medical ships. They are all gone." The plague killed 10,000 people in the first week, then 100,000. Then it spread to other worlds, other species, other systems. Dr. Yuna could have stopped it. She had seen this disease before, on Earth, centuries ago. She knew exactly how to treat it. The cure was simple, cheap, and easy to make. But Yuna was far away, back on Earth, where no one was dying. She had no idea what was happening in the galaxy she had left behind. Vorith received report after report of disasters. Mines collapsing, crops failing, wars spreading, plagues killing millions. His hands shook as he read them. "How did we not see this?" he whispered to himself. "How did we not know?" The truth was simple and terrible. The humans had been doing so much for so long that everyone had forgotten they were doing it at all. The galaxy had taken them for granted. The stars had assumed that human doctors would always be there to heal them. That human engineers would always be there to build for them. That human soldiers would always be there to protect them. And when the humans left, they took it all with them. Vorith called another meeting of the council. The Great Hall, which had been so full of celebration just months ago, was now filled with fear. The delegates sat in their chairs with hollow eyes and trembling bodies. "We made a mistake," Vorith admitted. The words felt like poison in his mouth. "We should not have driven the humans away." "Then call them back," said a delegate. "Send a message. Tell them we were wrong." "I have tried," Vorith said quietly. "I have sent dozens of messages. There has been no response." "Then send more. Beg if you must." "We have begged. We have pleaded. We have promised to reverse the sanctions, to give them whatever they want." They do not answer. The hall was silent, except for the sound of delegates crying quietly. Everything they had built was falling apart. Everything they had taken for granted was crumbling. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, the humans sat in silence. They received every message. They read every plea. They heard every desperate cry for help, and they did nothing. Not because they were cruel. Not because they wanted revenge. But because they had learned something that the Council had never understood. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. The galaxy had thrown away humanity's gifts. Now it would learn what those gifts had truly been worth. 2 years had passed since the humans left. 2 years of death. 2 years of war. 2 years of watching the galaxy burn. High Counselor Vorith stood in his private chambers, looking out at the stars. He looked older now. His blue skin had faded to a pale gray. His golden robes hung loose on his thin body. He had not slept properly in months. On his desk were reports that he could not bring himself to read. More plagues, more wars, more planets falling into chaos. The Galactic Council, which had once ruled over 1,000 worlds, now barely controlled 100. The rest had either collapsed into anarchy or simply stopped answering calls. A knock came at his door. "Enter," Vorith said without turning around. His advisor, a young Kellerai named Mora, stepped inside. She was one of the few who had stayed loyal to him. Most of the others had fled or turned against him. "The search fleet has returned, High Counselor," Mora said quietly. Vorith closed his eyes. And they found nothing, again. He had sent 12 search fleets into human space over the past 2 years. Some had been destroyed by the automated defenses that protected human borders. Others had simply vanished, never to be heard from again. The few that returned brought only empty news. "Tell me exactly what they found," Vorith said. Mora looked at her notes. They managed to reach the Outer Rim colonies, the ones closest to Council space. They found nothing. "What do you mean, nothing?" "The colonies are empty, High Counselor. The buildings are still there. The machines are still there. But there are no people. The humans took everything they could carry and left the rest behind." Vorith turned to face her. "Where did they go?" "Deeper into their territory. Beyond our reach. Our ships cannot go that far without human navigation charts, and we do not have those." "Then get them." "From whom?" "The humans took all their charts when they left. The only copies that existed in Council space were in human hands." Vorith slammed his fist against the window. The glass cracked but did not break. 2 years, he said through gritted teeth. 2 years of searching. 2 years of begging. And they will not even speak to us. "Perhaps they cannot hear us," Mora suggested carefully. "They hear us. They simply choose not to answer." Mora hesitated before speaking again. "High Counselor, there is something else. The search fleet. They left a message at one of the abandoned colonies. Written on a wall. In the human language." "What did it say?" Mora looked down at her notes, then back up at Vorith. Her eyes were filled with something he had not seen in a long time. Shame. It said, "We gave you everything. You threw it away. Now live with your choice." Vorith stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. "Live with our choice," he repeated, "as if we have any choice now but to die with it." He walked to his desk and sat down heavily. On the wall behind him were paintings of great Kalari leaders from centuries past. They stared down at him with proud eyes, judging him for his failures. "Do you know what the worst part is, Mora?" he asked quietly. "No, High Counselor. The worst part is that they were right. The humans. They were right about everything. He picked up one of the reports from his desk. Before they left, Ambassador Tejo warned me. He said I would understand one day what I had done. He said it would be too late by then. You could not have known. I should have known, Vorith shouted. He stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. I should have seen it. Everyone should have seen it. The humans were not our servants. They were not our workers. They were the foundation of everything we had built. And we kicked them out because we were jealous. Because we were afraid. Because we were too proud to admit that we needed them. Mora said nothing. There was nothing to say. Vorith walked back to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of Kelari Prime's capital city. 2 years ago, those lights had been bright and beautiful. Now half of them were dark. Power failures. Food shortages. Disease. The city was dying, and there was nothing he could do to save it. I remember the vote, he said softly. I remember how proud I felt when it passed. I thought I was saving the galaxy from human domination. I thought I was protecting our people from outsiders who had grown too powerful. He touched the cracked glass with his fingertips. I was wrong. The humans were never trying to dominate us. They were trying to help us. And we punished them for it. Mora stepped closer to him. What do we do now, High Counselor? I do not know, Vorith admitted. It was the first time he had ever said those words out loud. The Council is falling apart. Half of the member species have withdrawn. The other half blame me for everything that has gone wrong. They are not entirely mistaken. Perhaps if we sent another fleet. No. More ships will not help. The humans do not want our ships. They do not want our apologies. They do not want anything from us anymore. He turned to face her again. Do you know what they want, Mora? The humans? No, High Counselor. They want us to understand. They want us to feel what they felt. To be alone. To be abandoned. To watch everything we love fall apart, while no one comes to help. He sat down again, this time on the floor, leaning against the wall. He looked like an old man, tired beyond measure. And we deserve it, he whispered. That is the truth I have been running from for 2 years. We deserve everything that is happening to us. We threw away their friendship. We threw away their trust. We threw away their love. And now we have nothing. Mora knelt down beside him. She had never seen the High Counselor like this. He had always been so strong, so certain of himself. Now, he looked broken. The Pelori delegate asked me something yesterday, Vorith continued. She asked me if I remembered the human doctor who saved her daughter's life. I did not even know there was a human doctor on her planet. That is how little attention I paid, how little any of us paid. The humans did not ask for attention, Mora said gently. They did not ask for thanks. No. They did not. And that made it too easy to forget them, to take them for granted, to assume they would always be there. He looked up at the ceiling. Somewhere beyond it, beyond the atmosphere, beyond the stars, the humans were living their lives, building their cities, raising their children, doing all the things they used to do for the galaxy, but now only for themselves. Send one more message, Vorith said finally. Not a fleet, not a negotiation team, just a message. From me, personally. What should it say? Vorith thought for a long moment. Then he spoke, slowly and carefully. Tell them that I understand now. Tell them that we were wrong. Tell them that I am sorry, not as High Counselor, just as one person to another. Tell them that if they ever choose to forgive us, we will be waiting. And if they never forgive us, we will understand that too. Mora nodded and stood up to leave. And Mora? Yes, High Counselor. Tell them that we miss them. Tell them that the galaxy is darker without them. Tell them that we did not know how much light they brought into our lives until they took it away. Mora bowed her head and left the room. Vorith remained on the floor, alone in the darkness, waiting for an answer that might never come. The message was sent that night. It traveled across the galaxy at the speed of light, passing through empty space where human ships used to fly. It reached the human border and passed through the automated defenses, It arrived at a listening station on the edge of human space. A young human technician received it. She read it carefully, word by word. Then she saved it to a file with thousands of other messages just like it. Pleas for help, apologies, confessions, begging. She had read them all. Every single one. And every time, she felt a little sadder. The technician's name was Minna. She was 23 years old. She had been born on an alien world, raised by human parents who had dedicated their lives to helping others. When she was 10, her mother had died treating a plague on a world whose name she could no longer remember. The aliens had not even thanked them. They had complained that the treatment was too slow. Minna closed the message file and turned back to her work. Somewhere behind her, the vast emptiness of space stretched toward a galaxy that was slowly destroying itself. She wondered if they would ever go back. She hoped they would, but not yet. Not until the lesson was truly learned. 5 years had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was not the same. The great empires that once stretched across thousands of stars had shrunk to dozens. The proud species that once argued in the council halls now struggled to feed their own people. The shining cities that once welcomed visitors from every world now stood dark and empty. But something else had changed too. Something deeper. The survivors had learned to be humble. On Kellery Prime, the capital city had been rebuilt. Not to its former glory, but to something simpler. The grand towers were gone, replaced by practical buildings that served real needs. The golden statues of Kellari heroes had been melted down and turned into medical equipment. High Counselor Vorath had died 2 years ago. Not from violence or disease, but from simple exhaustion. He had worked every day of his final years trying to undo the damage he had caused. He had failed, but he had tried. In the end, that was the only thing he had left. The new High Counselor was a young Kellari named Thessa. She had been a child when the humans left. She had grown up in a galaxy without them, learning about them only through stories and records. To her, the humans were not enemies or rivals. They were legends, almost like gods. Thessa stood in the rebuilt council hall. It was smaller now, with only 50 delegates instead of hundreds. Most of the old species had either died out or retreated to their homeworlds, too broken to participate in galactic affairs. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the human departure, Thessa announced. Her voice was soft but steady. Every year, we gather to remember what we lost. And every year, we send a message into the void, hoping that they will hear us. The delegates nodded solemnly. This had become a tradition, a ritual of repentance. This year, Thessa continued, I would like to do something different. Instead of sending another plea for forgiveness, I would like us to share our memories, our personal stories, the moments when humans touched our lives and we were too blind to see it. She stepped aside and gestured to the delegates. Who would like to begin? For a moment, no one moved. Then an old Valtori delegate slowly rose to his feet. His name was Korath. He had been young when the humans left, just beginning his career as a diplomat. I remember a human woman named Hana, Korath said. His voice was rough with age and emotion. She was a junior diplomat. I met her once, many years ago, at a trade negotiation. I was rude to her. I told her that humans did not belong at important meetings. He paused, gathering himself. She did not argue with me. She simply smiled and said that she hoped I would change my mind someday. Then, she spent the next 3 hours helping me with a problem that had nothing to do with her job. My daughter was sick, and I mentioned it in passing. Hana found a human doctor, arranged transportation, and paid for the treatment herself. She never told me she did any of this. I only found out years later, after she was gone. Korath sat down. Tears were running down his long face. A Marrakesh delegate stood up next. Her name was Rinna. I was a soldier, she said. I fought in the border wars before the humans came. I killed many Valtori. I thought that was what strength looked like. She looked across the room at Korath. The two species had been enemies for 1,000 years. Now, they sat in the same hall, united by their shared loss. Then the human peacekeepers arrived, Rinna continued. A young man named Jiho was assigned to my unit. He was supposed to teach us how to maintain peace instead of making war. I thought it was ridiculous. I told him that peace was for the weak. She smiled sadly. Jiho did not argue with me either. He just showed me. Every day, he showed me what real strength looked like. Helping instead of hurting, building instead of destroying, forgiving instead of hating. By the end of the year, I had laid down my weapons and become a diplomat. Because of him, more delegates stood. More stories were shared. A Torathi spoke about a human engineer who had saved his father from a collapsed mine. A Palaxian talked about a human teacher who had taught her how to read. A Kellery described a human musician who had played songs so beautiful that they made entire cities stop and listen. Each story was different, but they all had one thing in common: the humans had given freely. They had helped without asking for anything in return. They had loved strangers as if they were family, and no one had appreciated them until they were gone. When the last story had been told, Thessa stepped forward again. Her eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was strong. 5 years ago, she said, we drove away the best friends we ever had. We called them greedy when they were generous. We called them selfish when they were selfless. We called them enemies when they were only trying to help. She looked up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it to the stars beyond. If any human is listening to this broadcast, I want you to know something. We have changed. The galaxy has changed. The suffering we have endured has burned away our pride and our arrogance. We understand now what you tried to teach us all along. That kindness is not weakness. That helping others is not losing. That the strongest thing anyone can do is care for someone other than themselves. We are not asking you to come back. We know we do not deserve your forgiveness. We are simply asking you to know that your sacrifice was not wasted. The lessons you taught us, the love you showed us, they are still alive. They are growing inside us. They are making us better. She took a deep breath. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, please know that you are missed, that you are remembered, that you are loved, and if you ever choose to return, you will find a galaxy that is ready to welcome you, not as servants or workers or inferiors, but as friends, as equals, as family. The broadcast ended. The delegates sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Far away, on a green planet orbiting a yellow sun, the broadcast was received by a listening station. The station was staffed by a team of young humans who had never known the old galaxy. To them, the aliens were just names in history books. But there was one person on the station who remembered. Ambassador Tejo was very old now. His hair was white, and his body was frail. But his eyes were still sharp, and his mind was still clear. He had spent the last 5 years watching the galaxy from a distance, reading every message, hearing every plea. He listened to Thessa's broadcast in silence. When it ended, he closed his eyes and sat perfectly still. His granddaughter, a young woman named Su Min, sat beside him. "Grandfather?" she asked softly. "Are you all right?" Tejo opened his eyes. They were filled with tears. "They have changed," he whispered. "After all these years, they have finally changed. Does that mean we can go back?" Tejo thought for a long moment. He remembered Voreth's cold eyes. He remembered the vote that had driven his people away. He remembered the pain and the sorrow and the betrayal, but he also remembered something else. Something that Voreth and the others had never understood. Humans did not hold grudges. Not forever. Because holding grudges was a form of weakness. It kept you trapped in the past, unable to move forward. Forgiveness was the real strength. The strength to let go of old wounds. The strength to try again. The strength to believe that people could change. "Perhaps," Tejo said slowly, "perhaps it is time." Sumin smiled and took his hand. "Should I send a reply?" Tejo nodded. "Yes. Tell them. Tell them that we heard them. Tell them that we forgive them. Tell them that we never stopped loving them, even when it hurt." He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were waiting, hoping, praying, and tell them that we are coming home. Suman sent the message. It traveled across the void, faster than light, carrying with it the hope of two peoples who had been apart for too long. On Kellery Prime, Thessa was preparing to leave the council hall when her assistant ran up to her with a datapad in her hands. "Hi, Counselor," the assistant gasped. "A message from human space." Thessa grabbed the datapad. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely read the words, but when she did, she fell to her knees and wept. The message was simple, only a few words. But they were the most beautiful words the galaxy had ever heard. "We forgive you. We are coming home." And across 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and color looked up at the sky and cried with joy. The humans were coming back, and this time, the galaxy would never let them go.